My name is Martin Rees. I'm a magician and I've been doing magic most of my life, but I've been performing professionally for about 15 years. You can then take the deck, for instance, and go 3, 2, 1, and then give the cards a shake, and then go red, and red, and red, and red, and red, all the way through. I've always loved magic because of what it makes you feel when you watch it, and I first got into magic when I was 4 years old, when I got a magic set for Christmas. When I was growing up, I really loved Paul Daniels when he was on the TV, and that's what first got me into magic. And also I like David Blaine. He did lots of really good card tricks and really good visual tricks on TV. That's when I first really got into magic and started performing to people. I did my first magic show when I was 12, and it was for a wedding, and the reactions I got were amazing, and it made me realise that is what I want to do as a The best thing about being a magician is seeing people's reactions, because especially if someone's having a bad day, then you can brighten up their day.
Martin specialises in close-up magic.
I do specialise in close-up magic, which is up close with people. You'll have 1 or 2 or a small group of people stood around you watching, and the great thing with it is that they can see and they can feel what you're doing, and you can borrow their things. Close-up magic is magic with anything. It could be cards, money, people's personal objects like mobile phones or rings or different things they have in their pockets.
People must react to Martin's tricks in very different ways.
Some people do like to try and figure out how the tricks are done, and it's interesting listening to what the ideas they have of how it's done, because most of the time they're completely wrong, and what they think has happened is completely the opposite to what has happened. You get different people though. Some people just love watching magic, and that's it. They don't want to know the secret. You get your people who love magic but have to know how it's done and are constantly saying, "How did you do that? How did you do that?" And then you've got your people who just don't like magic. It scares them. They don't want to know, and yeah, they're the people who I like to impress the most, because they're a challenge, because they don't like magic, and I'd like to make them change so they do like magic.
Martin had built up a good career performing close-up magic at weddings, birthdays and business events. He'd performed in children's hospitals and on national television. But this kind of success couldn't have been enough for Martin, because in 2016 he worked out a way of becoming a world record-holding magician.
Inside the tricks, so if you open it up, there is a folded up playing card, and if you unfold that playing card and open it up, it is the 2 of spades in it. There we go. There we go. How about that?
How do you become a world record-holding magician? It can't be easy. Martin decided he didn't want to break another magician's record. He wanted to set a brand new world record. Something that he could do that no one had ever tried before.
The idea for the world record started when I started working for a children's charity who go to Great Ormond Street and other hospitals. So initially, I was going to do a sponsored skydive and do a couple of magic tricks on the skydive to show the kids in the hospitals. But as the idea grew, someone said, why not look and see if there's a world record that you can do? So I looked into it, and not many magic tricks have been done as a world record on a skydive. So I thought, well, why not do the most magic tricks on a skydive?
It can't have been easy to practice for this record-breaking attempt. How on earth did Martin prepare for something like that?
So I started going to an indoor skydive centre, which has a wind tunnel that blows wind in a big loop, and the wind blows at about 120 miles an hour.
It must have been very challenging to do magic in that situation.
So I had to think of different ways of making the tricks work inside the wind tunnel, while also holding on to them as hard as possible in case they blew away.
It may have been difficult, but Martin clearly impressed the people who were watching him practice.
The manager of the wind tunnel said, why not do a world record in the tunnel? So I did that, which was the most magic tricks in a wind tunnel in 3 minutes.
Hurry up, Mike.
So, Martin had set his first world record. But his biggest challenge was still to come. Throughout his training, Martin had always planned to attempt his world record skydive in August. So how did he end up doing it in November? Well, it turns out that some important people had heard about his wind tunnel record.
Once I did that record, Guinness World Records called me and said, we know you're doing your skydive record in the summer when it's hot, but would you do it as part of Guinness World Records Day, which is in November? So we did the world record in November. The problem with that was it was so cold because we jumped from 15,000 feet, and at that height it was about minus 20 degrees. So within 5 seconds of leaving the plane, my hands were so cold I couldn't feel the tricks in my hands, which made it a lot more difficult.
To set a new world record, Martin needed to perform 10 tricks on the skydive. But his hands were too cold, and he couldn't do 10 on the first jump or on the second jump. And he only had one more jump because the weather was changing, and he wouldn't be able to jump in bad weather.
But after a couple of practice goes, I did do the record. I had to do a minimum of 10 magic tricks, and I managed to do 11 on the skydive.
So Martin became a double world record holder, and he appeared in news reports around the world. The publicity was great for his career, and Martin is planning to break some more magic records in the future.
So there is a record for the most magic tricks underwater, and I want to do this record because, one, it's opposite of air, so from the air into the water, but also my biggest fear is being underwater. So I want to overcome my fear as well as doing this world record.
But until then, Martin is back on solid ground, doing what he loves most, performing magic right in front of people's eyes.
Slowly burn the pieces together. I'll go 3, 2, 1. Like so. I can actually burn the pieces back together.
Man wakes up after being in a coma for 19 years. A man has woken up after being in a coma for 19 years to find that his world has changed beyond all recognition. Polish railway worker Jan Grzebski lost consciousness nearly
Dad, can you help me with my English homework?
Sure. What's it on?
We're doing Romeo and Juliet.
Ah, that's funny. I was listening to a radio programme on Shakespeare in the car today about how he might not have actually written the plays.
You're kidding?
No. Do they ever talk about that at school?
No.
Well, I think there have always been theories that Shakespeare can't have written them, and to be honest, I did find this programme quite convincing, even though I haven't read any of his plays since I was at school.
But look, it says here in black and white, Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. Must be true.
Not really. Don't believe everything you read. They said in this programme that no one can come up with any hard evidence that Shakespeare was a writer. There are documents referring to him, but only as an actor and a businessman. And apparently he didn't write his name like that. He spelled it in different ways, but in all his signatures it's Shakespeare. S-H-A-K-S-P-E-R.
That's funny, actually, because I can never remember if there's an E on the end of his name or not. He could just have been even worse at spelling than I am.
No, that's not possible, Jake. But some people argue that Shakespeare can't have had the education you'd need to write all those plays. There's so much world knowledge in them. Well, you must know that from having to work out all the references, to history, law, music, Italian culture, all the foreign languages in them. But Shakespeare was from a pretty ordinary background, So at best, he must have gone to the local grammar school and left at 16. He never went to university.
Really? But weren't universities just for aristocrats in those days anyway? And didn't they study weird subjects too? Latin, grammar and astrology. Ugh.
Yeah, well, of course you're right. Very few people did go in those days. And yes, ordinary people weren't allowed to go.
But couldn't he have found out